Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Digital Assets Daily. Today there is a lot of energy in the XRP community preparing to get ready for swell. So we're going to start off with something that leads up to that and discuss the China and U.S. competition right now with their trade deals and currencies. So let's dive right in. Excuse me. Something just broke in China as repo state soars to 1,000% overnight. Ever since the unexpected failure of China's Baosheng Bank in late May, which caused a freeze in the interbank market among smaller, less credible, and government-backed stopped banks, which sent rates on negotiable certificates of deposits, NCDs, various bank bonds, and assorted report rates sharply higher. Investors have fretted that China appears on the verge of a Lehman moment, where wholesale interbank liquidity and overnight funding markets suddenly lock up. The reason for this, as we explained last month, is that China's short-term lending market for bank and other financial institutions has for years operated under the assumption that Beijing wouldn't allow big losses in the event of defaults or insolvencies. Hence the reason why Baosheng's failure was a shock. That coincidence has been shaken by regulators' unusual public takeover of the troubled Chinese bank near Mongolia last month, and the even more stunning public admission by the central bank that not all of Baosheng Bank's liabilities would necessarily be guaranteed. Bank failure always causes greater concern given systemic fears, said Owen Gallimore, head of credit strategy at Australia and New Zealand Banking Group, suggesting greater pressure on the private sector ahead. Also in China, they are getting ready to launch their cryptocurrency. It's going to be a global cryptocurrency. Facebook and China are both looking to develop global digital currencies that could rival each other, especially in emerging markets. Based on recent conversations and meetings in Beijing, RBC told clients this week that China has expedited its development of a central bank digital currency after Facebook's announcement in June. Analysts and industry leaders are flagging geopolitical implications of China launching a competing cryptocurrency first, especially if Libra hits a brick wall with U.S. regulators. And in the U.S., the return of quantitative easing. The liquidity crisis feared by financial analysts has arrived, sparked by a surge in the U.S. government's borrowing following the bipartisan budget deal. The Federal Reserve has been forced to intervene in the nation's money markets to fill a critical shortage of money by making emergency overnight cash loans called repos. For the first time since the financial crisis of 2008, Southern Utah University economist David Tuft explains what started happening in the last week in plain English. The Fed has been heavily buying repurchase agreements, also known as repos. Translated, this means they're trying to reduce short-term interest rates quite aggressively too. Nathan Tankus explains that this is a response to the Basel III Accords for avoiding and managing financial crises. These are not yet official yet, but the U.S. is following them. This is the first time they've had to do this particular thing, and it's been clumsy, but not a problem. Basically, the really large banks now have to have enough liquidity to get themselves through 30 days of bad news. But that means they have to hoard liquidity. But liquidity is costly to hold, In the past, their internal liquidity would go up and down with interest rates as they sold and bought treasury bills. Those big banks have been short on liquidity, so they've been hoarding it. This drove up rates. A central bank is supposed to respond to this by buying securities from the banks. That's the repos. The Fed was a bit slow on the uptake that this is the way the world works now. And with the world, China competing with the US, and everybody having financial crises or on the verge of it, what is the one thing that can solve this trillion-dollar crises? And that is XRP. Confirmed Ripple says major rebranding underway. XRP powered XRapid transforming to on-demand liquidity. The new branding of XRP to ODL, or on-demand liquidity. Ripple is confirming reports of a major rebrand of its core products. Representatives at the company tell the Japanese media outlet Morningstar that its payment messaging system XCurrent and corporate payment API, now called XVIA, will simply be referred to as RippleNet. In addition, its XRP-based cross-border payments platform is no longer called XRapid and will instead use the name On-Demand Liquidity. Ripple's XRP outruns Bitcoin to spike 6% amid swell event hype. XRP was performing better Bitcoin and the rest of the top rivals on Monday as investors, speculators anticipated bullish outcomes from an upcoming Ripple event. The third largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization established an intraday high of 29.36 cents as of 0616 GMT. The move uphill brought its gains up by 5.73% as calculated from the opening price. At the same time, XRP stole a large chunk of capital from the Bitcoin market, rising by as much as 5.13% against the benchmark cryptocurrency. The XRP to BTC exchange rate earlier established a seasonal peak of 3,523 sats at its lowest in Q3. The pair was trading at 2,967 sats. And XRP swells because of swell. The upside swing in Ripple's XRP closely followed its investment into a mobile wallet provider. The San Francisco-based blockchain company announced that its Spring is injecting $750,000 into BRD. The move, according to Ripple, would prompt BRD to add support for XRP tokens, which in turn would boost the altcoin's adoption. While Ripple BRD partnership offered a perfect excuse for XRP bulls to open new long positions, prominent market analyst Galaxy BTC, a pseudonym, thinks the jump has more to do with swell. It noted that XRP price jumps every time before the Ripple's well-covered conference takes place. For instance, the altcoin spiked 115% in 2017 and 220% in 2019, 2 weeks before the swell event. XRP is rising again right ahead of the Ripple conference, scheduled to be held on November 8 and 9 in Singapore. The altcoin has already surged by up to 14.29% in October. In comparison, Bitcoin's gains this month stand at a mere 0.5%. Another thing exciting about this swell is updated today, the digital asset investor seems like he will be taking the trip side by side with Mr. B. So that should be a fun trip, and we should get a lot of exciting stories and maybe even get to find out the mystery man behind the voice that is digital asset investor. Hope you're having a great night, and again, this is not financial advice. Do your own research and this is for entertainment purposes only. If you want to research these articles further, the links will always be down in the description. And again, be safe until the next time.